Hey guys and gals, this is Tiffany from TK Farm Goods. I feel the need to make this video because the subject comes up all the time and I need to put my 2 cents in. There are other channels who have addressed some of these things and they've done a great job. Channels like Arms Family Homestead made a couple of great videos. One called 5 Myths About Goats. A second good one is Top 3 Deadliest Mistakes Goat Owners Make. You should check them out. I think that you should research things that you want to do, like getting into goats or rabbits or cattle or anything that's living, basically. You should be well informed before you jump in with both feet. Something that I personally keep running into is feeding your goats and any other animal. I hear this over and over again. People are very surprised to find out that you can't stick 2 or 3 goats in a 1/4 acre pen with a little grass and that they're going to flourish. It's not going to happen. I've heard this with cattle. I've heard people say, I'm going to buy a steer, I'm going to put it in my backyard, and in 6 months I'm going to get 500 or 600 pounds of meat to put in my freezer with no feed, just a bale of hay maybe, and the grass that's in their backyard. It just doesn't work that way. I have people wanting to buy goats and they say something along the same thing of, well, they can just eat the grass that's in my backyard. Well, it's not going to work. And they have no anticipation of feed or hay, just the grass that's in their yard, and it's not going to work that way. You need to consider, no matter what time of year, that there are lots of factors that can affect the growth of an animal. It doesn't matter if the goats are for dairy or for meat or as a pet. You still have to feed it something. Now, I'm not talking about buying a goat that you're going to slaughter the following weekend, but something that you plan on having for a while. You have to make these considerations if you're going to be successful. Now, let's talk about when things are good. You have grass. You still need to provide some hay as a roughage or a forage. You should also have some type of mineral available. There's different brands, different kinds, blocks, loose mineral. And of course water, clean fresh water. You also have to think about parasites. You have internal and external. Internal, you have different types of worms. External, you have flies, mites, things like that. Now that's when things are good. Now what happens when the unexpected happens? Like, let's say a drought. Now there's no grass and there's no forage available. So now you're feeding more hay and now you're actually feeding a feed that you've bought. There's different kinds of pests that can affect things. Here in Texas we have a thing called army worms. They can strip an acre field overnight, and I'm talking grass, bushes, trees. They can be terrible. So now you're back to no grass, no forage, so you're feeding hay and you're feeding store-bought feed. Animals eat faster than people think they will, and they'll get a goat or a calf or whatever it is and they'll stick it in their backyard, and that's supposed to support them for a year on the grass that's in their yard, and in a week people are panicking because they've eaten everything in sight. Well, now what do? Let's talk about hay. We bale our own hay because we feed cattle, goats, and rabbits. We have the land and we have the equipment. But if you don't and you have to buy hay, hay prices are going to vary from place to place, region to region, and the weather conditions are going to majorly affect the price. For example, this last summer, it was very dry here in Texas. Then, all of a sudden, it started raining, and it hasn't stopped. Hay production in our area was pretty bad. So where normally a square bale of unfertilized native hay would have been anywhere between $2 to $5 a bale, right now it's $11 a bale. I've seen it up to $12, $13. It's pretty crazy. Round bales here were normally $25 to $50. This year, because of circumstances, they've been anywhere between $45, $95. I've seen $110. Paying that can be a major setback. we started seeing animals for sale very cheap everywhere. Most people can't afford those kind of prices on hay, and they never saw it coming because they never even considered that something like that could happen. So you really need to make these considerations and just think about not when things are good, but when things could go bad. Worst case scenario, somewhat be prepared for that, or at least be aware that it can happen. Now let's talk about feed. I buy my feed locally from Southland Ag and Outdoors. They have several locations. I like buying from a place like that. One, it's more friendly. You know the people who own it, they know you. But it's not just that. I've tried to buy cheaper, and I bought, let's say around here we have Tractor Supply. I had problems. I had nothing but problems. The animals didn't want to eat it. I had problems with things like this buildup during the process of the bagging of the feed. There's a gunk that builds up on the conveyor belts, and these big chunks of this nasty stuff would be in the bags, and that counts as your weight. You're paying for that, but they won't eat it. I finally just decided I would pay a couple dollars more to get something that I knew was going to be good, and the off chance that something was wrong, I can take it back to him and tell him and say, hey, you know, there was a problem, and it's no big deal, we fix it. I've had better luck buying local, and I prefer to keep my money a little more local too. Now feed's gonna vary depending on the type and the brand, where you are. I mean, there's all kinds of factors. I feed a midline pellet. It's not the cheapest, but it's not the most expensive. It's about $15 for a 50-pound bag. Added to that, I also feed alfalfa. Now, we don't have access around this area of regular alfalfa bales. You have to order them in from Oklahoma or elsewhere. So available to us is an alfalfa bale that's in a compressed bag. It's $18 a bag. Now it's good stuff, but it's $18 a bag. So I can feed 3 goats twice a day, a small scoop of the feed, and it can last about a week. So 3 goats, say $15 a week. The alfalfa lasts about a week, so $18 a week. Now, I feed them all the hay they want. We bale our own hay, so it's not that big of a deal. But let's say on good times, a square bale, $5 a bale, it'll last for about 2 weeks. So let's say $2.50 a week, plus water. We're gonna say it costs for 3 goats about $40 a week. Now that's just to maintain them. That's not growing, that's not milking, and that's not having babies. That's just for them to be in your yard to eat the grass. I have fields, pastures to raise my goats and my cattle, so I don't normally feed, but during droughts, pests, fire, floods, I have to adjust to what the animal needs. And as long as you're aware of these possible problems, you can adjust your time and your money to fit what your goal is, whether it's meat, dairy, or a pet, but you have to feed them something. Something also that you need to consider is bedding material, depending on where this animal is going to live. Say a goat, do you have them in a stall? Do you have them in, they have to have some sort of shelter to be covered up. We use a bagged shaving. It's a pine shaving. It's fairly cheap. I think it's $7 or $5 or $7, something like that. And it covers a 10 by 10 stall. So it's really good stuff. We use that. Also the mineral. There's different types of mineral. You can get a block. You can get a loose mineral. There's different kinds of loose mineral that have different things in them. I've tried the block. I didn't have very good success with it. I actually used 2 different loose minerals. I mix that together, and then I mix a salt in with it, and I offer them baking soda. Goats will eat all of it depending on what they need. I don't stir it all together. I just pour it into a bucket or into a pan, and they'll eat whatever they need. And I've had good luck with that. It helps with reproduction, it helps with parasites, it helps with birthing, it helps with milk. We have mainly dairy crosses, so we do milk, and we've had better milk production. I think where I've seen it most be effective is in reproduction and successful births. We were having an issue every once in a while with not making it to full term, or having somewhat weak kids when they were born and hard to get started a little bit. And I started adding a little bit different mineral in there, and I started having a lot better luck. I really think that the mineral is a big component. I always make sure that all my animals have it, and like I said, I've had way better luck getting the amount into the animal having a loose mineral so that they can get as much of it as they want. They're not going to overdo it. They'll stop when they don't need it. I hope this gives you something to think about. Don't be afraid, but be as informed as you can be. Ask questions, talk to anybody local that you can find, go out to their farms or ranches, and just see how it works. Ask those questions. Don't be afraid. There are no stupid questions as far as when you're trying to learn something like that. It's only going to help you get to where you're going, and it's going to make things more fun. The more informed you are, you won't have as many problems. And when you do have a problem, you'll be able to handle it a little bit better. So I hope this helped somebody out. Any questions, any comments, just leave it below, and thank y'all for watching.